So, well, hi there. This is another project from me. It's a reply to your comments. So I stood up tomorrow, and then after some time I checked my emails and I was astonished how many comments and replies I got. And this video is like a thank you video. It contains electronics. And yeah, let's start with the replies. Someone wrote me a long message that he would offer me that I can send my prototypes to him and he will measure it on a professional base in a laboratory with a spectrum analyzer and stuff like that. Thanks for that, but no interest. No offending, but all I've learned from books, from practical experiments. I do have more than 10 years of practical experiments and experience made. And as I said in the previous video, I'm not calculating my circuits, and I think if I go to a professional level, if I get a dBm measurement and stuff like that from a spectrum analyzer, what should I do with these values if I'm not calculating anything? For harmonic checks, I'm using my various communication receivers. Some of them cover even more than 2 gigahertz, and I think I'm pretty good at checking harmonics. And also harmonics are not really a problem that I have to deal with these days. It was a problem in my earlier circuits, but now all the PI filter and harmonic filters are pretty simple to make for me, and so it's not really a problem. For the website, there were some persons writing that I should make the website and upload it in England or America. Of course, I've also thought about that. That was one of my first thoughts, but the problem is they've really filled like every hole with this law. And if I upload it on an English site, I even would be not only supposed to add my address on a German way or a German speech, I would also be supposed to add my address in an English form to be correct and to be sure. Of course, you could make a website and upload it and do not add these address, and it will work 1 week, 1 year, 10 years, 50 years. No one will care, but if you have bad luck, someone who's earning his money with this stuff will find your website and you will get in trouble. So that's not worth it. That's not really worth the risk of it. And the other point is someone else said he could upload my website on his website. That's also what I've got offered from various people, but the point is, in theory, and that's what where I really put my intention to, is that everything is legal. So no pirate transmitter, everything is okay, no one will complain, but I can't guarantee it. And I don't want any person to get in trouble because of posting pirate radio circuits. And although they aren't pirate radio circuits, and also although the posting of pirate radio circuits is another law, and it's very easy law. So you may post 10-watt transmitter circuit, you may post 20-watt transmitter circuit. As long as you just post a circuit, no one will complain. But still, for being sure, I don't want to get anyone in trouble by hosting my website on his or her website and getting then eventually in trouble because of this. Someone else wrote in German, interesting is just amateur radio or PMR radio. Well, I can double that. PMR radio is really interesting. I get easy over 25 miles of range with my PMR radio if I stand on a mountain and have line of sight. As soon as I go down in the village or in the city, the range will pretty much decrease to 500 meters, 2 kilometers, really depending on how the buildings are. But in line of sight with PMR or PMR radio or family radio service is probably equally. I get a range of 25 miles without any problems, as long as I have line of sight. Okay, yeah, I second that, but amateur radio has the problem that there are, I quoted, no radio-like transmissions allowed. So you may transmit a CQ, you may talk about the weather and stuff like that, but making a music transmission like vintage radio collectors do this, it's not allowed. And the other thing about amateur radio is that in Germany, the AM type modulation is only allowed in the 10 meters band. And that was not really the law enforcement or whatever that made these laws. That were some German amateur radio operators that said, hey, we only want AM on the 10 meter band, and they gave that to the German FCC, if you want to call it like that, and they said, okay, let's make a law out of that. And so AM is only allowed on 10 meters and not on the AM radio band, not on the long wave band, and so far and so on. And amateur radio is not interesting me. It's interesting as it is, but it's, for me personally, it's boring. So I rather would like a vintage radio transmitter and stuff like that. That is rather interesting for me. But thanks for the offer. Okay, jetzt kurz now something short in German, 1 minute or so. So, für die Deutschen, die sich fragen, warum ich das nicht auf Deutsch gemacht habe, ist ganz einfach der Grund, dass ich da schon einige deutsche Subscriber habe oder Abonnenten habe, aber eben nicht so viele. Und mir ist auch aufgefallen, dass sehr viele von den deutschen Abonnenten, die sich da regelmäßig melden, auch sehr gut die englische Sprache beherrschen. Da denke ich mir, gut, warum soll ich da jetzt 2 Videos machen, wenn ich auf Englisch einen, sagen wir mal, 80% plus der Leute erreiche und auf 20% dann die Deutschen sind. Habe ich mir einfach gedacht, okay, machst du es auf Englisch, die meisten verstehen es ja und die, wo es nicht verstehen, die können mir auch gerne eine Nachricht diesbezüglich schreiben und ich kann es ihnen dann noch mehr erklären. Und ich wollte jetzt auch nicht so rummeckern, das Video war einfach nur eine spontane Aktion, die mir schon länger durch den Kopf ging, eben eigentlich hauptsächlich auch aufgrund des Vorfalls mit einem sehr, sehr guten eigentlichen Freund und einem gewissen Menschen, der da ein bisschen in der freien Energieszene vertreten ist. Gut, also wie gesagt, ihr versteht es ja auch auf Englisch, so wie es scheint, deswegen ein englisches Video. Gut, dann erzähle ich wieder in Englisch weiter und dann beschäftigen wir uns auch gleich mal mit dem Sender. Okay, now let's talk about the transmitter. I've already answered your questions, or better answered your replies, and I really appreciate them. I thank for them again. And here we have the FM transmitter hooked up, already transmitting, working, that you've seen in the previous video. And my opinion about it, I got it as Christmas present from Simon, Kanalbus driver. And I've tested it, I've really made some tests with it, and I've also had, when I was having time, loading screen on the computer, laptop booting, I was having a look at the circuit that they built, and it's a kind of weird circuit. It does work very well, but it's a weird circuit. You would expect this coil here to be in the collector for a typical Colbit's oscillator, and this one be for this transistor, which is the final amp, and this one be for the harmonic filter. No, it's not like this. So this coil is in the collector of the oscillator transistor, and this one is going via a capacitor from base to ground. You know the circuits with the coil from base to ground, but usually collector then is laid with a capacitor to ground potential that you have the RF on the emitter, and in this case they are taking the RF from the oscillator on the collector. And also the values are pretty big. I think this is a 100 picofarad parallel to the emitter resistor, but the circuit does work. The final amp is connected directly between plus and minus. I don't like this design because if this transistor shorts, it may smoke, burn, explode or whatever. I would have added a safety resistor, if you want to call it like that, in series with the transistor. But this is powered from 3 to 5 volts, so there shouldn't be any failures. I'm powering it with a 9 volt battery, and here I have a 4.7 volts battery, so the voltage is dropping and the transmitter is actually getting the voltage it wants to work with. This coil here is in the collector circuit from the final amp, and there is no real harmonic filter. There's a cheap harmonic filter. First we have our tuned tank circuit with these two components here, and on the output we have a capacitor. We have 2 capacitors on the output, and in the middle where the capacitors meet is the antenna. So I've checked the harmonics. The first, second and third harmonic is okay. Well, let's say the second harmonic is okay because the third is already in the UHF band, but on 400 and 500 megahertz I'm getting a strong signal. Of course it's not as strong as the ground wave, but it would be too strong for my personal interest. But I assume if you put this transmitter into a shielded housing, you could reduce the strength of the harmonic very well. The output antenna connection, if I connect an antenna, the harmonic will also be transmitted on the output, but it's very much weaker than the ground wave. So for under 10 bucks, including shipping, this one can be bought on eBay. It's okay. The next thing I complain about is the audio response. Now I've set up a transmitter, and now we're going to listen to the transmitter original's signal, and then I'm rebroadcasting the transmitter over this transmitter with a neutral audio source. That means the output from the audio source is neither having too much bass or too much treble. It's just putting out a neutral signal, and we'll have a comparison of the original signal and the rebroadcasted signal. First, the original signal. Okay, just switching between the tracks. I'm using a license-free FM transmitter here for this first transmission. Okay, now let's have a listen to the rebroadcast. Oh, this was the... Oh no! Oh no, the batteries from my Walkman where with I'm rebroadcasting just got empty, so I have to hook up the second transmitter directly to the CD player. Hope it doesn't fall down. Okay, you can hear it, it's a little bit loud. But as you can hear, Yeah, you probably can't hear it too good, but if you would have a close listen to it, you can play back the video to the original point and then to the new transmission. You will hear that there is much of the higher frequencies missing. And this is very bassy sound, very not high frequency sound. And this is because of the high resistor and the high capacitor in series. Also, this one has a bass modulation. It's not used with modulated with a varicap like you would usually modulate it. It's just a cheap bass modulation, and there's no pre-emphasis. A radio has a de-emphasis. That means it does reduce higher frequencies, and therefore, to eliminate this effect, you need a so-called pre-emphasis on your transmitter that does increase the response of high frequency, and there's a little bit decrease the response of low frequency. And this one doesn't have this so-called pre-emphasis. Or maybe they built in some kind of pre-emphasis, but it's not working really well. And so you get this rather medium wave-like sound on FM. Of course, it's better than medium wave, but just for understanding. I've tried to modulate this transmitter with a MPX signal, so a stereo signal that I took from a stereo encoder, or better, I took from a radio that receives a stereo signal and uses as stereo encoder. And all I got, even with an active preamplifier and preemphasis, was that the radio was recognizing, oh, there's a stereo signal, so it switched the receiver in stereo mode, but what I was hearing on the headphones was mono signal. There was absolutely no channel separation. It was just like a mono transmission. And yeah, so this transmitter, for under $10, you get it completely built on eBay. If you don't add an antenna, it's around about as strong as the license-free transmitters. If you add an antenna, it will cover the complete flat or house. I haven't tested that really. Yeah, it's for under $10, it's okay if you want to transmit your mono signal to your radio with an equalizer. You can make the sound okay of this transmitter, but for higher recommendation, I would not so much recommend it. But it's good for beginners, since just plug in 3 volts, plug in the audio source, add an antenna, and you have your radio transmitter finished. There's this slug for tuning the frequency, and I've tried to turn it carefully, and it wasn't really turnable with my tools. I don't have the right tool for this, and I don't want to use force to break it, but they say it's covering the complete FM band. I haven't tested that. And for the microphone, you can switch to the built-in microphone. It does work. You can hear yourself talking, but you must talk very close to the microphone, since there is no audio amplifier for the microphone. But overall, it does work. If I would have to give this transmitter a school mark, it would get a C, or in German a Mark, a Note 3, 3. So 6 is the worst mark, and 3 is okay, so it would get an okay from me. Okay, that's about the FM transmitter and the reply to your comments. Best regards, Stefan.